upcoming election, of course, is not too far away. And the people of Barbados have a choice to make. The choice is not a frivolous or flippant choice. It is a choice between a constellation of political stars and a hastily put together hodgepodge of political clowns. And as far as I'm concerned, the choice has to be in favor of the constellation of stars in the Democratic Labour Party. And because the clowns know that, they have been running up and down the country, behaving as erratically as headless chickens, trying to create issues where none exist, trying to stir up ferment in the country to give the impression that the Democratic Labour Party is in breach of the Constitution of Barbados, that we do not want to hold elections, that somehow I am bent on being some kind of dictator because I want to oust people's democratic rights, and all of this in an attempt to persuade people in this country to vote against the Democratic Labour Party in the upcoming election. They have had the support in their nefarious campaigns of the seers, the soothsayers, and the scribes. And up to now, they have made no impact, no positive impact on the political culture of Barbados under this Democratic Labour Party. Now let me make it very clear. Within the provisions of the Constitution of Barbados, there is going to be an election in Barbados. Parliament is going to be dissolved when I say so, when I instruct the government. And a date for election is going to be announced, a date on which I have decided. There is going to be a nomination day, and there is going to be a polling day. So I do not know what all of the fuss is about. It is going to happen. There is going to be a campaign, and the gospel of the Democratic Labour Party is going to be preached. We are not come to call the righteous, we have come to call sinners to repentance. So, they will have to wait. And because they can't endure the wait, because I don't know that a pig that is going to be slaughtered wishes for Saturday to come. I've never heard anything so foolish yet. Decided, according to them, that they're going to boycott Parliament, and some political novices, some scribes have suggested that they've boxed me into a corner. Well, I don't know. I've never heard anything so absurd. What they don't know is that since about March 2011, a few weeks after the by-election in St. John, I had fixed the date for the next general election in my own mind, and that date hasn't changed yet. So they said that they're boycotting Parliament. I went to Parliament yesterday, got there a little late because they had to deal with some other official business. And the quite frank truth is, I would say that it was the happiest day I spent in Parliament since we were there. All of the sources of pollution were absent. Nobody had to fear that their mother was going to be cursed. And of course, we didn't have to worry, so we thought, that when lunchtime came, we could get in a queue and orderly go and get our lunch. Because the pigs who are normally in search of their swill were not going to be around. Of course, we were not particularly accurate on that. But let me get back to this boycott of Parliament. In 2007, because of some perverse rulings of the Speaker of the House of Assembly at that time, we took a decision one afternoon that, based on the perversity of a ruling that was handed down by the Speaker on a matter that was clear for everybody to see, we would not submit ourselves to his superintendence in the House of Assembly anymore. And we said, you can take the House, we will take the streets. The next thing we did was to have a public meeting in Hero Square. What do my monkey do too? With this difference, that we had a basis for saying that we were not going to submit ourselves to the superintendence of a perverse or decisions that we regarded as perverse. But there is no basis for the decision that has been taken now, because nobody is alleging that any law has been broken. Nobody is alleging that the Constitution of Barbados is under any threat. And you will note who the messenger was. Now, it could not be Owen Arthur, who's the leader of the Barbados Labour Party. Because to be fair to him, he boycotted Parliament since about February 2008. I affirm tonight, with all of the conviction at my command, and all the certainty at my command, that since the 12th of February 2008, or between the 12th of February 2008, the evening when the throne speech was read, and tonight, Owen Arthur, the elected member of the Barbados Labour Party for the constituency of St. Peter, has not spent 24 hours in the House of Assembly. In total. Between the 12th of February 2008 and tonight, Owen Arthur, in my view, based on my calculations, has not spent a total of 24 hours in the House of Assembly. Because he has a view that he should only come there if he's Prime Minister. I warned in Spooners Hill one night at a public meeting, or rather I shared a warning that was communicated to me by an old mentor of mine in St. Philip. You should never let a hungry man share food. He has now got to the stage believes that he is so important that the only position he should fill in Barbados is that of Prime Minister. A little political pipsqueak. And he actually believes that he is so important that he can only come to Parliament if he is Prime Minister. If he can shout at people and threaten to fire them and curse them and do all the things that the most distinguished parliamentarians of Barbados would have frowned on, unless he's in a position to do that, he cannot come and sit in the Parliament of Barbados. So he describes it as sporadic. And he does not come. So he could not be the messenger last Saturday evening to announce that the Barbados Labour Party was boycotting anything. He would have to have been announcing that he was boycotting playing cards or dominoes up with the B-man on Gemma's Lane. But he couldn't announce any boycott of Parliament. So he decided, or they had to decide, to allow the Member of Parliament for St. Joseph to do it. Now, let me be fair to Mr. Marshall. He comes to Parliament sometimes. He spends most of his time in the members' room watching television. When he's in the house, on the floor, he's either sleeping or on his BlackBerry or iPad. On the few occasions that he intervenes, the quite frank truth is, he says nothing that adds to the sum total of human knowledge or understanding. In fact, most of what he says subtracts from the sum total of human knowledge and understanding. He's made no impact at all on the political culture of Barbados. None, none, none. If any of you in here tonight can tell me that you can remember anything that Dale Marshall ever said of importance, you can have all that I own. Nothing. 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 But he announces this boycott. The people of St. Joseph are interested in another boycott, and we are going to help them next polling day to ensure that that boycott becomes a reality. They are going to boycott him and vote their dissolver to the House of Assembly. But the truth is, there is no difference between the Barbados Labour Party being in Parliament and not being there. Let me be very frank about that. Dale Marshall adds nothing of value to it. APA has not spent 24 hours in there between 2008 and now. George Payne has not spent 72 hours in there between 2008 and now. He spent more than APA, but what he spent cannot add up to 3 days to 72 hours. Cannot! And of course, when he gets up to speak, may the Lord help you. He is only not the most foolish man Parliament has ever had to contend with, because God has denied it to mankind to achieve perfection even in foolishness. Now let me declare an interest here. Ron Toppin has been a friend of mine from 1977, when we coincided at the law faculty of the University of the West Indies together. In those days, I had no car, and we were such good friends that many evenings he took me from the university and drove me to my home in St. Philip. We've got along quite well over the years. But Ronald Toppin is a member of the Barbados Labour Party. I remember the days when he used to say that he wants to be a politician like Tom Adams. He wants to know the defamation laws as well as Tom Adams knew them, so that when he curses people, he wouldn't defame them at the same time. Now, I've often wondered at setting yourself that kind of objective in politics. If that is your political ideal, you really shouldn't be in politics at all. And of course, faithful to his ideal, faithful to the pursuit of that ideal, when he comes to the House of Assembly, it is with the singular mission of insulting everybody in the government or trying to insult them. And he has a particular venom for Richard Seeley because his nostrils cannot inhale comfortably the fragrances of Richard Seeley's success. So that makes him so uncomfortable that he has to get up and try and curse everybody on the government benches. He's a particularly bitter man. I've said this on national television in the budget debate already. Too bitter. And in politics there is no room for that kind of bitterness. It is corrosive and erosive of your personal health. And that is why with every passing day Ronald's jackets look bigger and bigger and bigger. But he's my friend. He treats me with unfailing courtesy. But I have to tell the truth. That kind of bitterness in politics is unhelpful. He exudes it, and therefore can be a source of inspiration to none of the people whom he leads in St. Michael North, the few that still hold on to him, but that will get rid of him at the next election. And from that point of view, I grieve for my good friend. But I think his time is up. I don't think he has anything of value to contribute to the politics of Barbados anymore. And when we go into St. Michael North, we'll be going there to put, without apology, the case of the Democratic Labour Party to ensure that our candidate is returned in that constituency. Mr. Roll Eastman, the other member of the opposition, was a faithful attendant of the House. And the truth is, there is not a malevolent bone in the being of Roll Eastman. He's a very decent, affable, pleasant fellow. He's had his own challenges in the Barbados Labour Party, treated particularly badly and abused by Owen Arthur. His confidence had a grave dug for it by the treatment meted out to him by Owen Arthur. And over time, his energies waned and certain health challenges took over. And now he is saying that he is not going to be returning to the House. But when he was able to, and was able to consistently, to be fair to Roll Eastman, he turned up and he spoke, and spoke sensibly. Because the quite frank truth is, well, Arthur wasn't wrong. And you cannot possibly imagine anybody having, or to put it differently, you can't imagine Roll Eastman having less to say in the House of Assembly than Dale Marshall. As long as he opens his mouth, it has to be more, because you can't have less than Dale. So when he spoke sensibly. He spoke on a wide range of issues, because I've known Roll from the 1970s as well. We were in the university together. Highly intelligent fellow, good former teacher at the Garrison Secondary School, the Great and Sealy Secondary School now. And from 1991, he was the Member of Parliament for St. James North, but was treated very badly by Owen Arthur once the Barbados Labour Party came to office. And I can tell you this, not even the devil in hell, to use Shakespeare's expression, can pronounce a name more hateful to Rawleysman than the name of Owen Arthur. So when Rawl is absent, we on the government side understand, we empathize, and we wish him well. Because when he was able to come, and come consistently, he came. William Duguid, comes to the house when he's in the island. His attention span is very short, and of course he does not allow himself to forget that there's snacks in the members' room. So you see him checking in and out of the house. Every 15 minutes he feels peckish. And he's in the members' room to eat pieces of sweet bread or to do something like that. But he comes to the house when he's in the country. As you know, he spends some time abroad. And of course you dare not say anything that he interprets as provocation, because then you hear things that you would wish you didn't have to hear about your mother. He ain't interested in any fathers, your mother. He's not coming back. He's not coming back. The Parliament will be the better off for that, because of course we wouldn't have to fear the kind of abuse that we've heard from him recently, the kind of abuse of which he is capable. But let me say this about William, because again, in his personal dealings with me, he's been nothing short of charming. But he too, like Rawleysman, has been treated very, very, very badly by Owen Arthur. Cursed, insulted, all sorts of things. Don't forget that Arthur opposed his nomination for Christchurch West, and wondered aloud, according to reports reaching me, why he wants to get in the house if you think that the men at the prison could build a chair big enough to hold up his weight. That's what people in the Barbados Labour Party reported to me that Owen Arthur said about him. Treated him very badly, promised him a ministry, and then when Duguid walked around and whispered it to a few people, that expectation was cheated of fulfillment, because Arthur was only being cynical and trying to play snakes and ladders with his hopes. So he's going, and I wish him well. I am glad for the Parliament of Barbados. And for those people who follow its debates online and so on, you don't have to wonder what vulgarities you're going to have to listen to coming from the highest court in the land. Let me be fair to Glenn Clark. Glenn Clark comes to the house, and sometimes he's the only person sitting on the opposition benches, sometimes. And he has put the case for his party as best he knows when he has had to do so. He has given of his best in that Parliament. It just happens that his best is not enough to fill a framework. But like the widow's mite, he gives all that he has. It just happens that it isn't very much. But he too makes sure that he toes the line, because whatever his other failings may be, he cannot match Arthur and Mayor Motley when it comes to personal abuse. And therefore, he tries to ensure that he is not the target of that kind of political virulence. Mayor Motley, as long as she was leader of the opposition, she came to the House punctually, participated actively in its debates. She spoke when she had something to say, and she spoke when she had nothing to say. The moment she was ousted, Parliament lost all of its attraction for her. The moment that people like Toppin and Payne and Marshall pulled their daggers from their scabbard and rammed the daggers in her back, Parliament lost all of its attraction for her. So she has now reduced herself to turning up at Parliament around 11:30 because she is targeting the 12:30 VOB news. So if she can slip in 10 or 15 minutes, she feels sure that on the 12:30 news you will hear about something that she said. We became wise to that, and we have been blocking her. So once she can't get the 12:30 news, she's gone too. And you don't see her after that either. And then, of course, there's the Member of Parliament for St. Thomas, Miss Cynthia Ford. Look, let me be very frank about this. Miss Ford is a loyal attendant of the House of Assembly. Always there. If she is not in her seat, it is because of an emergency. She will sit, she will take her notes, she will hurl her jibes, she will receive jibes from us sometimes in the good-natured way in which we exchange them, and she will speak. We may not agree with what she's saying. In fact, sometimes what she's saying is far off course. But she discharges her parliamentary responsibility as best she knows how. So on any objective evaluation of a Barbados Labour Party boycott of Parliament, the only person that we would be likely to miss would be Cynthia Ford. The others count for nothing. Out of nothing comes nothing. Ex nihilo nihil fit. Out of nothing comes nothing. Only Cynthia Ford comes to the House and sits down, has the discipline to sit down, to listen to debate, take notes, and participate in the debate. It just happens that, like the man traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho, about which Holy Writ speaks, she finds herself in a situation where in the Barbados Labour Party she has fallen among thieves. And nowhere to run. Like Lady Macbeth, or like Macbeth himself, in blood stepped in so far that should she wait no more, returning were as perilous as to go o'er. Trapped in the Barbados Labour Party, forced to hold her nostrils to keep out the stench of that organization, but to play along with her colleagues around there. But these are the people who say they boycott Parliament. But I told my colleagues yesterday, well, I've never felt, Parliament has never felt in such good hygiene as it has felt today. I told them so yesterday. There's no stench around. We can inhale and exhale properly. So I really did miss them. And in any event, we don't miss them because they're seldom in there. But they're trying their best to create an issue where none exists in order, so they say, to put pressure on me to call it an election. The Parliament of Barbados, according to the Constitution, will die or can die on February the 11th if I don't dissolve it before then. You read my lips. Look, you wait and you're going to see, you're going to hear. Whenever I call an election, those circus clowns are going to say, you see what, we put pressure upon you had to call it. Because they're little children. They are little children. And for them, politics is a spectator sport. While for us, politics is about strategies for development. While for us, politics is about social transformation. While for us, politics is about touching and healing the lives of the marginalized and the voiceless in the society. For them, it is a source of entertainment. And that is what they're missing now. Now, Mr. Arthur is missing much more. Because without the office of Prime Minister, nobody talks about him. So he is in tortured search of personal validation, and he can only be validated by holding the office of Prime Minister. When Errol Barrow lost office in 1976, after he came back from teaching at Yale University on a little sabbatical, he sat in that house and debated between 1977 or whatever it was. But he came back for every budget debate, even when he was on sabbatical. But sat in that house and debated from 1976 until 1986 when he was voted back to office. When Harold St. John lost his seat in Christchurch, South Central as it was at the time, to Peanuts Morrison in 1971, he was appointed to the Senate. He lost his seat as leader of the Barbados Labour Party. But he didn't feel that he had lost so much face that he had to go anywhere and hide. He walked with his chest up, accepted a senatorial appointment, and continued his contribution to Barbados. In 1986, when he lost his seat as Prime Minister, that was not enough to faze St. John to overwhelming or to embarrassing. By 1991, he was running again in Christchurch South, a newly created constituency, and he came back to the House and made his contribution to Barbados. To none of the two of those persons can Owen Arthur be compared. He can't match them in political stature. He can't match them in political capacity. Yet, he feels that he can only come into Parliament if he's Prime Minister of Barbados. He became that by accident. He didn't become Prime Minister because of his originality. He became Prime Minister because he was a representative of the mediocrity in the Barbados Labour Party at the time. And he has interpreted that to mean that he is some special person, and that as long as he is not Prime Minister, he enjoys some special dispensation. He can sit it out and not come to the House of Assembly to which the people of St. Peter had elected him. Well, my view is, and this is what I will tell the people in St. Peter in the upcoming election campaign, if you elect a man for 5 years to the House and he spends less than 24 hours there, you have given him something he didn't want. And it will be a waste of time giving it to him again. Give it to his revenge so that the work of the people of St. Peter can be done. So we are readying ourselves for future encounters in this country. And here in St. Michael Southeast, our candidate is Mr. Patrick Thomas. As I say, Patrick has already received my emphatic and unequivocal endorsement, and I reaffirm that endorsement here tonight because I think he's the best person to run here in St. Michael Southeast and to represent this constituency. Unlike all of the other candidates in the Democratic Labour Party, He is thought to be so formidable that he has two opponents. He has Delilah Bradshaw and he has her daughter, his daughter. That was a slip of the tongue. Lapsus linguae, slip of the tongue. Now, Delilah Bradshaw, I have known from around 1969. Delilah Bradshaw ran in the constituency of St. Philip South in the 1971 election. If memory serves, he either lost or nearly lost his deposit up there against Mr. Reynolds Weeks. Bernard St. John was the leader of the Barbados Labour Party at the time, as I said earlier. And I remember well, as part of Reynolds Weeks' campaign, going around St. Philip and noting on practically every utility pole the words, "Vote Brady and get free." And based on all that the young people in that constituency were hearing, they felt that the message was incomplete. And they painstakingly walked around to every utility pole and added on a D to Bree, so that the thing read, "Vote Brady and get Bree." He lost his seat. As I said, I'm certain he did not get 700 votes in that election. I'm reasonably certain about that, but if he got 700, he didn't get 800 for sure. Certainly got fewer than 1,000 votes. And in the 1981 election, he came down to, beg your pardon, in the 1976 election, he came down to St. Michael Southeast. That was the election in which the Democratic Labour Party lost office, and he defeated Mr. John Connell by 73 votes here in St. Michael Southeast. Well, it just, for some strange reason, during the count, the electricity went off. But that's another story. In 1981, he was returned. Our candidate here was Mr. Milton Pierce, and he defeated Milton Pierce by just over 220 votes or something like that. His was a turbulent political incumbency here in St. Michael Southeast. Many scandals were woven around his name during that period, but it is a testament to his resilience, I think, that he was able to surmount and to survive all of them. He lost his seat in 1986 to Dr. Erskine Simmons, when the Democratic Labour Party got 24 of the 27 seats. And by 1991, he had come back and he defeated Dr. Simmons, so that he was again the Member of Parliament for St. Michael Southeast. And so he remained between 1991 and 1994, when the Democratic Labour Party and its candidate Hamilton Lashley routed him and put him to flight in the general election of that year. Bradshaw has not forgotten that defeat. He has not forgiven it. And his thirst to become a member of the House of Assembly again, because he too depends on that for personal validation. He managed to inveigle his way, worm his way into the Democratic Labour Party, and was a candidate for us in 1999 in this constituency. He failed miserably. he hasn't forgotten or forgiven that either. But he's determined that the people of St. Michael's South East should vindicate him, if not by himself, vindicate him through his daughter. And that is what this campaign is about. He wants to be able to say, when I won't vote for me, but when I still have to vote for my daughter. That is the kind of game that is being played here in St. Michael's South East. And the people of this constituency are being perceived as the pawns in that game. No time for games when you're dealing with the welfare of people. And we have put Patrick Tannis in here. He has the unqualified support of Hamilton Lashley, as you heard from Hammy himself. Not only here, we heard it from him in the Pine, and I know it of my own knowledge. And he has the unqualified support of Undine Whittaker, who, in good times and in bad, in this constituency, has counted not the cost, heeded not the wound, sought not for rest, but has labored and asked for no reward other than seeing that the people of St. Michael's South East are properly taken care of. So along with the support of those two stalwarts and a very good campaign team, he has the support of all of us here tonight. David Essig, Richard Seeley, Kenny Best, Michael Carrington, all of us. Every single member of the cabinet, Steve Blackett, all of us. And we will be coming up here and putting his case with all the vigor and all the eloquence at our command, because we are not going to allow the people of St. Michael's South East to be pawns in any psychological games to assuage, really, the political disappointments of Delisle Bradshaw.
Coming in good hands.
So, prepare yourselves for that battle. In such hour as you think not, an appearance will be made. And all those whose lamps are not trimmed and burning will be left out.
All right.
You don't mind a lot of talk.
No.
They can talk as much as they like. I have said over and over again, you heard me give this example of from the 18th century English philosopher Edmund Burke. Half dozen grasshoppers can make a lot of noise out on a field. Make a field ring with their importunate chinks, while thousands of heads of cattle will lie down and just chew their cuds. And if you listen to the noise, you may get the impression that those grasshoppers are in control. It's only when the lights are turned on and you see how many cattle out there that you realize that those grasshoppers are just the noisy insects of the hour, but that the cattle controlling out there. So we don't mind the noise makers. While they talk, the Democratic Labour Party does. They wanted a sparring match with us ever since. I told my colleagues, and my colleagues agreed, no time for sparring. Governments govern. Because at the end of a parliamentary term, voters don't ask you how much you talk. They ask you, what did you do? What were your achievements? And we had to make sure that we had a register of achievements that we could come authentically to the people of Barbados and to put our case for re-election at the next year election. So they're free to talk. But we have a record of which we can be proud. We were set an economic test and we passed it. Barbados tonight is not growing, but nor is Britain, nor is Italy, nor is Spain, nor is Portugal, barely the United States, and so many other countries. Greece, nor is Greece. But we've kept Barbados stable. Without the resources of the countries I just named, we have kept Barbados stable. We have kept public servants employed so that We keep the prospect of social dislocation and family disruption down to a minimum in Barbados. We did that in the worst crisis the world has seen in 100 years. To tell us, don't keep on talking about that. What do they talk about then? Talk about what they want us to talk about. We have a record of which we can be proud. We've managed our unemployment situation sensibly. Anytime you live in a society and there's one man who wants a job and can't find one, that society is at risk. So we do not rejoice at the fact that there are unemployed people in Barbados tonight. But we know this, that this is a worldwide problem, and within the context of that worldwide problem, Barbados has performed commendably. And they've done it under the Democratic Labour Party. We passed the economic tests. We were set a social test, and we passed that too. Because you heard Hamilton last year tonight talking about that catalogue of social achievements of which this Democratic Labour Party government can boast. In every sphere of our social life, the light of the Democratic Labour Party beams. The floodlights of achievement cast their brightening beams all across Barbados. Our social safety net is intact and working so that we are able to stymie the prospect of too many people falling through the cracks. We have put, after over 40 years of debate in this country about unfair dismissal legislation to protect workers, we have put it on the statute books, this Democratic Labour Party administration. You have heard of our passing a Prevention of Corruption Act in this Parliament. Barbados had a Prevention of Corruption Act before, 1929. That act was far out of date. It had no teeth. It has teeth now though. And you hear these strange noises being made all the time by Mr. Arthur in his own defense and in defense of Miss Motley, for whom he has a cordial distaste. That we declare we assets already. Miss Motley and I declare assets already. He stood up and he was saying something down, sticky piece of paper in the eye. I only have this, I only have that. He declared he assets, you know, but you know why he's saying that? Because that issue is stuck across his throat like a fishbone. He knows what he's talking about all the time. When he goes to sleep, he dreams about declaration of assets. When he gets up, he thinks about declaration of assets. And there is a reason for that. There's a reason for that. But we have that legislation on the statute books. And in the fullness of time, all things will be made clear and explained. We put in place a mechanism during these very hard times to make sure that single mothers who are the beneficiaries of maintenance orders through the magistrate's courts, but who are also the victims of delinquent fathers and so on, we put in place a mechanism where those parents don't have to trek to the magistrate's court to ask whether money is there, to find that none is there, and then have to leave empty-handed. Because the truth is, whether money is there or not, children still have to eat. A child does not eat because money is there, or a child doesn't want to eat because money is there, and then does not want to eat because there is none. Whether there is money or not, children have to be fed and clothed and housed. And the Democratic Labour Party has taken care of that. I could go on and on and on our record, the passing of our social tests. But, as I said elsewhere, this is just the appetizer. The main course will come later. So we passed the economic test, and we passed the social test. And we passed the political test as well. Not only in terms of keeping Barbados stable, not only in terms of making sure that the processes of democracy, the machinery of democracy is so well oiled that the relationship between the governed and the governors and the governed is maintained, but we actually pass constituency councils legislation to deepen the democratic processes, to deepen the relationship between those who are governed and those who are governors. Bring communities closer together so that people can be part of the decision-making process. Many years ago, it used to be thought by Abraham Lincoln in the 19th century that democracy could be defined as government of the people, by the people, for the people. That's what he said in the 1860s. For us, it has never been that only. For us, democracy is a method by which people who are deemed to be politically relevant influence the decision-making process. And we consider the masses of the people to be politically relevant. And therefore we had to put mechanisms in place to ensure that they could influence the decision-making process. That's why we have constituency councils. That man who I heard went to school and went to the university and is a lawyer, a man called Dale Marshall. I heard that happened. Got him out of the assembly and said that this legislation was the biggest threat to democracy since independence. A piece of legislation that is deepening the processes of popular participation. And he argues that it is a threat to democracy. Because as far as he's concerned, he said the constituency council should be voted for. And since it's not being voted for, it's a threat to democracy. So let me explain that for you. 20 million people in South Africa under apartheid could not vote. 6 million people could vote. For Dale Marshall, that is democracy. Because this ain't called voting. When Nelson Mandela came out of prison and was discussing South African democracy in his first speeches, he was talking about reducing the voting age in South Africa to 14 to deepen the democratic processes, to allow more people to influence the decision-making process. And we pass constituency councils legislation, and we hear from an opposition that is a threat to democracy. We pass the test. And we passed the test in difficult times, in the worst crisis the world has seen in 100 years. Summer camps, free bus rides for school children, and on and on and on I could go. But understand this, they opposed all of that. So in the unlikely event that they had to end back up in office, all those things gone. Gone. Gone with the wind. And therefore, you have to understand that in politics, voting is about the protection and promotion of your interests. Let me tell you, there are people in Barbados tonight who have a lot more money than you, who are much better circumstanced than you, and on election day they are going to vote because they understand the connection between voting and protecting and promoting their interests. you have interest too, and you must vote. If you are driving a vehicle and you take your hands off the steering wheel and take your eyes off the road, you cannot be heard to complain if the vehicle ends up in a gully. And when you don't vote, you're taking your hands off the steering wheel, and you can't be heard to complain what happens after that. So you have a duty to go out there and vote, and to vote for the Democratic Labour Party. So ladies and gentlemen, I have spoken for the 10 minutes I intended to speak for. I am very pleased. You've been a very attentive, a flatteringly attentive audience, and I really thank you for your courtesy and for your attention. But when all is said and done, we have to go through all of this. And we are here tonight to give our full support to Patrick Tannis. And we urge the people of St. Michael Southeast, from whatever part of St. Michael Southeast you come from, to vote for Patrick Tannis and the Democratic Labour Party come Election Day 2013. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.